I
Okay.
know you've done a lot, and that's why I wanted to interview you. Just like Guy Dawson's done a lot, and right now he's trying out for leadership to be a regional advisor.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know you've done a lot, and that's why I set it up to record on Zoom, and then I have to pause it so I don't hear me talking. Okay, so my first interviewee for leadership and what to expect and how you learn in your own environment through leadership through Toastmasters. I want to know more about leadership. So, and I figure other people in Toastmasters might be interested in knowing a little bit about leadership as well. So, my first interviewee today, who has been quite the leader in District 52. She's done a lot of leadership roles, and she is here today to talk about that. Holly Fleischler, Distinguished Toastmaster. Holly, I sent you three questions. One was, what were three things you learned as a leader in Toastmasters from area governor, area director, district governor, and district as a district leader? What did it teach you for real life and your company? And do you feel you are a better leader now for your leadership in Toastmasters? Yes or no, and why? So, Holly, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's such a pleasure to be here and work with you as we do often in Toastmaster clubs. I'm so glad that I was introduced to you and we cross paths in Toastmasters. Just for a little bit of clarity, I am currently a DTM, earned about 10 years ago. During my term as area governor at the time, there were many more clubs. So I had 6 clubs in my area that I led. I was able to earn a President Distinguished Area and also receive the award for Area Governor of the Year for District 52. And just one more little clarification, it's Holly Fleischler is my name. And just like there's no I in Fleischler,
I'm
there's
sorry.
no I in team. So that's a good reminder that there's no I in team. I like to remind people of that. So
Did
my
I not get that wrong? I'm sorry.
no, it's not no problem at all. It happens about 50% of the time. So
I
you're
felt
right
like
in there. You're right in there. And it gives me a chance to use that little phrase. So for my success as an area governor, I found that in many clubs, the lesser officer positions can sometimes be stronger leaders than the top three. In some cases, the experienced officers want to stay in the loop of the leadership of the club, so they let other less experienced members take the top officer positions, and then those who are less involved who have experience stay at the lower three. Like you'll have sometimes a much stronger secretary than a vice president of education. And sometimes your sergeant at arms will be much stronger and a better leader than your president. So that's why I always emails all officers in each of the 6 clubs that were in my area. So that was 42 people that got emails from me regularly. Currently, I am the treasurer in Mindful Communicators and the secretary at Manhasset Port Washington Toastmasters. And that's so I can be someone who can be effective with the team they have now. And it's also something I called leading from behind. It's stepping away from the decision making enough that other people can shine, because that is my goal, that the other people on the officer team can shine. I don't need to be front and center. I don't need to be especially thanked. It's really enough for the other people on my officer team who can do well. So emailing all the officers in every club was really important in this. It really pushed the whole team of officers in each club to get together and play their part in the club's success. Now, there was several ways that I wanted to run this. I wanted to do something called group competitiveness and group camaraderie. So on one side, I would email all the officers about the success of any of the members of their particular clubs, of all particular clubs. So on once or twice a month, I would send out an email that said, hey, everybody, look who got their CC, look who got their CL, look who became a leader, look who won a contest. So by sending that to all the clubs, there was a sense of competitiveness. Oh, they got a CC. They got 3 CCs. They got a CL. This person got an ACG. Created a sense of competitiveness. And for a lot of people, that competitiveness is a motivator to them wanting to really not fall behind. And the other part that I played in this group email is creating camaraderie. So I would have people from all the clubs send a congratulations to all of the other members of any other club who did well. So everybody, let's celebrate this person in this club and that person in that club. Hey, we're a great area. Let's band together as an area and do well. So this was being a little more camaraderie, because you never know what people's philosophies are. You don't know what motivates them really, if it's the group thing or it's the competitive. So giving praise to everyone was really important. Who doesn't like praise after all, especially from their leader? Some kind of public praise is really motivating, and praise from the leader uh, enables the person to feel good about themselves. And the other thing I did in my special emails, besides those things, is use the subject line in a motivating, inspiration, clever, and humorous way. So I would put down on the subject line and sending it to all the officers, hey, everybody, guess what happened with the question mark? Or uh, I was going to tell you this later, but I'm going to tell you now that dot, dot, dot. Those were my subject lines. And I think it really worked because people at the end of my term as area governor, they complimented me. They said, oh, Holly, we're not going to get your emails anymore. I just loved your clever subject lines, and it made me open the email, because as leaders, we can bombard people sometimes with too many emails, too much context, too much information. But if I made them interesting and clever and funny and motivating, it gave them reason to open up that email and read what was in it.
My
And then,
thing on, I'm sorry, can I say something? My thing on sending email is it's okay to send a lot of email as long as you're saying something interesting and like, I agree with you, funny, and inviting them to do something important. Another question with your air when you were area governor, Holly, you said you were president's distinguished.
yes.
Can you state what it took? I was an area governor at one time, and I know how hard it was for me. Can you mention what it what it took to be president's distinguished to let everybody else know?
You know, the first week I was appointed as area governor, and I went to this big meeting led by the district director at the time, district governor at the time, And all this information came out. You have to do this and you have to do that, and this amount of clubs and this amount of leadership points and this amount of communication points, and you have to have the officers trained, and you have to have this and that, and it was overwhelming. I didn't understand. I had no idea what was in store for me after the meeting. I just knew it was incredibly much. It was kind of overwhelming. But you know what? I knew that if other people were able to do it, to be presidential distinguished, if it was done in the past, there was no reason why I couldn't do it too. So I went to my division governor at the time and I said, Carolyn, if there's a way for me to become presidential distinguished area governor, I will do it. And she said, Holly, wow, that's fantastic. And now I was committed to doing it. So there was a lot of visits, a lot of emails, like I just described, um, checking the reports. That's really, really important to be an area governor or an area director. Check the reports all the time. How many points does each club have? Did they get their officers trained? Are they doing the things that they should be doing to become distinguished? One of the clubs was going to lose its group number within the year, within the end of the year. So I inherited that club, and there was no way a club was going to die under my watch. Ooh, that was really, really important to me. I had to save that life. I had to save it. Oh, I see your dog agrees. I really motivated to save it. And so I worked really tirelessly, finding a location, getting people to sign on board, building and building and building, calling people, advertising, just always creating a fun and learning environment. There was a room at the fire station where we finally were able to hold our meetings. And at one point, there was 5 people in the room. And the room could hold easily 35 people. And I said at the beginning of my term, my goal was to make the house filled and have standing room only. And within 7 months, there was a meeting with standing room only. I think it was just constant work, staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, sending emails, trading favors from one club from to another, having the other clubs in my area, in my division, in my district, having people come and visit, Facebook, Meetup, um, putting flyers on cars, advertising in every way I could, telling people you have to invite people, tell people about it, put it on your Facebook, tell 10 people, a membership drive. I had a membership drive where I made labels for the Toastmasters magazines, and I had people put the label on their Toastmasters magazines when we used to get them, of course, before recently, and put it in 5 different offices: a doctor's office, a hair salon, a nail salon, anywhere where there was reading material. I had people put those in 5 places where they went to visit for a service where there were magazines. And we did get people from that. We did get interest from that. So the idea was to be very, very creative, to have a good area contest. That was really important. Constantly reminding people, having a positive attitude. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I feel like you're the one. I would say these things to people. And you know what, Linda? I believed it. When I said something to someone, I looked at them straight in their eyes and I believed that they can do it. I believed in them. Do you know what it's like to have someone believe in you? I know
Yes.
you do because I believe in you.
Oh,
I had a mentor. A lot of people might know her name, Karen Hudson. She came up to me and within 2 months, and she said, you know, Holly, I think you could be the vice president of education. Like, well, I was here 2 months. What do I know from that? But she said she knew I could do it. She told me, you know, Holly, I think you can be area governor. Why don't you sign up for that? I didn't know what was involved, but she believed in me. She believed in me, and that did more for my success than anything I had on my own. And then eventually, I was able to believe in myself. So, believing in people is a big thing. Also, leading by example. I would visit the clubs more than twice a year because I felt like my face and my influence was important in giving a lift to the club. So I changed my work schedule. It was only one day when necessary for those lunchtime club meetings. I got involved in doing either a speech to do something to advance their knowledge about Toastmasters or to take a position, a functionary position, and give an excellent review of what that position was. But I loved it. I loved this work. It wasn't work, really. It was a pleasure. So that was all the work that I needed to do, leading by example and nonstop because I wanted to. I needed to be important in
I
my
do
life.
agree with you. You need to be a positive influence. I had it when I was area governor. I had a club that wanted to throw in the towel, and I actually convinced them just stick it through till the end of the year. You can do
Right.
it. They not only stuck it through, they made it through the end of the year. Yeah, sure, they still needed members, but after that, this was Santa Sue. They were transferred into District 52, your area, and now I believe they're booming. So I'm glad I talked them into staying. So
I'm glad too.
and then with Madeira Toastmasters, I help them go from 0 to 20 members. So it can be done. However, Holly, one other thing you need to do to become President's Distinguished, I believe, is start a club. How did you go
Yes.
about doing that?
Yes, I worked with a small team of the district governor and two other people. Somebody else, truthfully, had brought that to the district's attention, and I worked with them on the team, gave advice, went to the setup meetings, was involved in any way that I could because I wanted to earn that. I wanted to earn that setting up a new club, starting a new club. It was actually in Pasadena, so it was a little bit far from where I lived, but I made it there. I was involved. I gave advice. We had conference calls regularly, weekly to set it up, and I was present and I was active in doing that, and it took hold. And just like your club that you helped from being shut down is flourishing, that club is flourishing too 10 years later.
A good
I
feeling.
think I think part of my success was definitely a teamwork. I didn't want to do every little detail of everything. I wanted to create leaders. I wanted to create people to help me. Now, I found this really important lesson to be true. When you ask everybody, you're asking nobody. So when we ask a whole club to do something or a whole area to do something, most likely people will think, oh, somebody will do that. Somebody else will do it. I don't know if I want to do it. I don't want to know if I want to get involved, if I want to put the work in. I don't know. So when I don't do that, I even now today, I don't ask everybody. I say specifically, Jack, I'll sign you up as a Toastmaster. You can do it, right? Oh, Natalie, you need to do your icebreaker. We'll set you up for next week, okay? I give someone the positive feedback that they can do it, and I pick that person. Notice next time when you're asking for volunteers, in a maybe a new club or a club where people are not that active generally, if you ask somebody specifically to do something, most likely they will not want to disappoint you. And I know, Linda, you're so positive, and you're so lovable and such a generous person that people don't want to disappoint you. So you might want to try that. And I think really the secret of my success at the end of the day is listen attentively, pay attention, reiterate, and ask two follow-up questions. When people realize that we're paying attention, I think there's more of a relationship built, an air of trustworthiness and likability. So if you were to repeat or reiterate something I said and then ask me follow-up questions, I'm like, oh, Linda likes me. That's what it seems like. So I'm going to like you back. Linda trusts me. And so I'm going to trust you back.
Holly, being a leader in Toastmasters, has it helped you in your personal life, say with your husband or with, I know you're not working anymore, you're retired, but has it like motivated you to start your own company or like helped you in your relationship with your husband anyhow?
Yeah, absolutely, especially the listening attentively and paying attention. I was the manager of an office that did a service in real estate, and there was someone who came in to the office that was livid. He was livid. His face was red. He was clenching his jaws. He was speaking loudly. He was almost yelling at people. And people came up to me. They had fear in their face. They said, Holly, that person is in the office. He's yelling. He's yelling. I said, okay, put him into um, the signing office. He was in the signing office, and I walked in. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid because I had learned about listening attentively. I had learned that if we pay attention, that if we ask follow-up questions, if we take the tenor of the argument down. So I listened to him. I said, tell me what's wrong. And he said some things. He was talking, he was talking, he was talking. I asked a couple of follow-up questions. And then suddenly I started asking the questions with a lower and lower voice. And so what he did is his voice became lower and lower and lower. And so just the fact I took the tenor of the conversation down, and just the fact that I was shaking my head, nodding my head, and the fact that I was listening, and I had some suggestions for how to deal with this, really calmed him down and really was a success. And that I learned specifically from being an area governor at Toastmasters. Now, as far as my relationships are concerned, when I'm negotiating for a deal or a service, or trying to direct someone in a positive direction, or even when I have a disagreement with my husband, as we all do. I mean, we have to have those disagreements. It's not all rainbows and sunshine all the time. There are disagreements, and that's normal. So I take the tenor of the conversation down. So if he's yelling at me for something I did or I didn't do, I apologize, I bring it down. And then once it's down to a level of mutual understanding, I apologize again. I reiterate what his issue is, or I take him away from the house, take him into the backyard or someplace else. And I say, honey, I notice that you're upset. Let's talk about that. So both in relationships and in business, the people usually want an ear to listen to. They want to be understood and want to be heard. And that's how I treat my relationships.
That's very good. Now, what are your, how has being a Toastmaster in different states and being an officer in different states other than California has helped you, or how do you feel about that?
Well, there's a reason why the motto of Toastmasters is, as you know, where leaders are made. It used to be that I wanted to collect CCs and ACBs, and I have 10 of those, and ACSs and CLs from the old manual system, and I wanted to get to a DTM. I wanted to collect those initials. Really, I cannot give birth to children because of my medical situation. And there was really no way for me to live, um, to have a purpose or to leave a legacy of my offspring. Where is my legacy? Where is my flag, my planted flag in this world? So I learned that I didn't have to be upset about that I could look to Toastmasters and I could see young, fresh, eager faces who want to learn, and I could be a mentor. As I've learned to heal my heart of missing that maternal part by being a mentor, by helping others a little bit, by helping them with their job search or their career path, by helping improve public speaking. By the way, when people come to Toastmasters and they say, I want to improve my public speaking, that is a great misnomer, because public speaking is only a little portion of what Toastmasters is.
Yeah.
It's communication, which involves speaking and listening,
Yep.
giving feedback, telling a story, making an impression, and just as important, leadership, gaining confidence, being on a team and leading a team. You can't have one. You can't just improve your public speaking and be successful. You have to have both. And that's
Oh,
why being a leader is so important as well.
most definitely. I tell people all the time, if you don't listen, you can't communicate, because then where's the conversation? So you have to do both.
Of
Um,
course,
what are your, how do you, I know you've attended at least 2 or 3 joint meetings now,
yes,
actually 4, counting your own club. How do
yes,
you feel about joint meetings? I know me personally, I love them. I get energized from them. But
sure.
what are your thoughts on joint meetings?
Fantastic. The glass is half full, because the empty half, let's talk about that for a little bit, is of course the world pandemic, the problems that people are having, the stresses, the health issues. This, everyone reads the news. We all know it's a great problem. This has enabled us to use technology, as you and I are doing right now, to have a meeting of the minds on Zoom, or there's other technology as well. But on Zoom, we can bring together people from different parts, different locations, different cultures, different languages, different points of view. It's so wonderful to have others around the world share their experiences, share their life. Because it is really different all around the world, but there's something very similar in everyone, is we all want to communicate, we all want to be heard, we all want to share. And being able to share in the cultures of people in the Far East, in the Middle East, on even the Midwest, Alaska, Hawaii, uh, different countries. It's been Australia. I don't want to forget Australia. It's just that I can't quite meet those midnight meetings from here in Northridge. So, it's been wonderful. I highly recommend that all clubs who have the capability find somebody or find a club to do that. And let me tell you, it's easy. Just go on to toastmasters.org. Check put a zip code in. Check within 100 miles of that zip code and find a club that meets at your club time. So I did that. I put in the zip code of my of Nevada, someplace in Nevada. I think it was Las Vegas, just for a try. And I checked for clubs that met at 1 p.m. on Saturdays, and I found one. And then we started talking to them, and they were interested in doing a joint meeting. I went to Washington. I couldn't find anyone with the same time. So that is a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But as we go out and visit clubs, we meet people from different parts of the world, and we suggest that we have a joint meeting. Do it once at least. I know in clubs that you and I are belong to, we've done that a number of times, and that really motivated me to suggest it to my club. I'm only the treasurer, but I did suggest it to the whole club, to all the officers, and they were really energetic about it and enthusiastic. So go for it.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I found some clubs on Facebook too, like a club in Lisbon, Portugal. They posted their link, their Zoom link on their Facebook page. So Facebook is another place you can check out to find joint, not joint meetings, but clubs in other areas, and also Google, mostly Facebook. And because I've had trouble with other clubs responding back to me through the Toastmaster website. However, when you go to Facebook, there's no problem with them responding to you there, or WhatsApp even. All the clubs in Europe and that part of the world, they all use WhatsApp a lot. Like Bahrain, they use it like crazy.
Yeah.
So I would say get on WhatsApp as well and find clubs that way, or just it's amazing the people we meet, the different types of people we meet is really interesting. And I agree with you. I too recommend going to a club outside your area, outside your state, outside your country, seeing how they do things and bring it back to your club and seeing if your club likes it as well. Because Alan and I brought back Table Topics Evaluator. I brought back the applause that I heard in Portugal and in Nebraska. I love it. I'm trying to learn the Google Docs for guests, signing in guests, but I haven't figured that out yet. Who knows?
I agree. There's definitely differences. No club runs their meeting exactly alike. And many clubs have innovations. You've mentioned what you brought back to your clubs, and they were very successful. I happen to bring back the minute of time after a speech presentation so that everyone can give feedback on the chat aspect of Zoom. And it's really good to get feedback for a minute.
Have,
But
have you ever
sometimes,
seen other clubs do some clubs have an evaluation sheet on Google and they send, remember when we're meeting in person, you pass around those little sheets of paper and people can
yes.
write little notes. Well, now on Zoom, some clubs use Google Docs for their club members to write notes on what they think the speaker did well and what the speaker can do better. And I tried that a couple of times, but some people said it was too long. So I'm still playing with it to figure out what I can put on it that people won't think is too long. It's kind of tough, but I know some people like it.
Yeah, it's whatever works.
Would you
And
be interested?
I'm open-minded to bringing a lot of ideas back to Mindful Communicators.
Yeah,
Meets the first and third Saturday at 1 p.m.
I think being
Uh,
open minded is key, and being key to being a good leader as well. And Holly, you do sound like a very good leader now in your personal life. I don't know if that's because you were a leader in Toastmasters or if you were already like that before you ever joined Toastmasters. But you are a very nice, friendly person,
Thank
and
you.
you do know how to listen, and you are a good leader. So I do thank you for coming on my very first podcast, my interview. I appreciate it. If there's anything else you'd like to say to maybe motivate other people to jump right in there and be a leader, or if there's any advice you'd like to give the new area directors to help their clubs or to stick with it, go right ahead.
Well, first of all, Linda, it's an honor and privilege to be interviewed by you and to be the first person chosen. That's something I will not soon forget. I'll never forget. It's really an honor, and it warms my heart that you did that for me. Um, I'm very thankful. Now, my advice for everyone, especially a new member, is take a role every meeting. Every meeting, do something. Sure, it could be the odd counter and grammarian, which are usually a little bit of beginner functions. And then after doing that, you can move on to timer, maybe table topics master. That happens to be a pretty simple position to take, but it is a strong leadership position. Um, Send new club members a little detailed description of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. I also send new members the icebreaker speech. Send them the evaluation form, the summary, and the project worksheet. No matter if they've signed on Pathways or not, we want to get them started. We wanted them to do the icebreaker right away. So being in contact with people, motivating people, because you never know when comes into your circle of people, a future district director will arrive. So it's up to you to help that person flourish and grow. And that's the joy of my life, to see that happen.
Thank you, Holly. One thing I really struggle with this year too is it is very challenging being a member of multiple clubs and being a PR for 5 clubs, trying to, what's the word, put your time in where it needs to be at the
Right.
right particular time. I don't know if you're finding that. Well, you're only an officer for 2 different clubs, but imagine doing it for 5 different clubs, trying to do one for Manhasset, then Mindful Communicators, then OSU, and then TGIF, and then Simi Valley Toastmasters, and then Simi Risers, and then Sunday Sundowners Australia. It's like, right now I'm working on it, just putting out the picture for Sunday Sundowners. I really like taking a photo, a group photo of whoever's on the Zoom and putting it on the website. I think overall, people like that. And as a PR, I think it's good to put it on the website to show your website is being actively looked at, or to get more different people to look at your website. But I know that's up to you, your club, on if they want to do that. I just, me personally, I think that's, at least that is important to do. And I actually suggested that to Sundowners and they liked it. And they said, yeah, go for it, do it, do it, do it. So I'm like,
Good, good.
so, it's all a matter of communicating, like you said in our
Yes.
interview, and listening to what the, that club wants, what they want to do. I know that people appreciate the certificates. Every time I send them their certificate for the clubs that I do it for, they really like it and they thank me for it. I One thing I don't like is when they're expecting it, because then I'm like, that takes the fun out of it.
Yes, it does.
I like when they are surprised and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much." It
Yes.
makes it more fun then.
Well, we have learned, Mindful Communicators have learned from you. We're starting the same process where right before table topics begins, we're going to take a group photo.
Well,
So that's going to be beginning to start, thanks to your influence. Thank you so much.
well, thank you so much, Holly. I think you have a very good, strong club, and I tell people all the time.
Thank you.
I give them an example, like in my leadership lab talk, that every club is the same, but every club is different. Find your club's niche. And then I say how mindful communicators' niche is mentorship. So they should be advertising, hey, if you want a good mentor, come here, learn how to mentor, be a mentor. And actually at Manhasset, I just spoke to one of the officers, I believe, or remember, I don't remember. She called me. I think it was an officer, but I can't remember her name. And she actually asked me to be her mentor. That touched my heart. Nobody's ever asked me. So that kind of like warmed my heart that someone
Well,
actually wants me to be their mentor.
you become a parent almost, and it's great responsibility. What you do affects this person's life. So
It's a
it's
good
a
feeling
full,
to be asked. Usually people ask my husband, which I don't blame them because he's good.
yeah. Oh, very good. Very good.
He's a good speaker. I'm still learning.
We all are, Linda.
Yeah.
We all are. We're all learning.
Anyway, thank you for making this podcasting a good experience. You are a good first timer. Yay, Holly.
Yeah.
I'm glad I interviewed you first.
Me too.
You're a good leader, a good friend. And thank you so much for joining me on my Toastmaster podcast. Holly, you have a good day, and
You
I
do the
will see
same.
you tomorrow
See you
at
tomorrow
Manhattan.
evening. Yes, mid-afternoon for us.
Yes, at 4 o'clock.
So just
Actually,
one
I
more
got to
plug. Mindful Communicators, Club number 1966. Meets Saturdays, the first and third Saturday of the month at 1 p.m. Be there or be square.
Hey, maybe you should have a guest speaker from another club. That would be good too. Good PR.
Yeah, we do that when our club members don't fill in the spots.
Oh
Our
yeah.
club members get first choice for any spot, and if there's an opening, we have a list of backup speakers.
Hey, what did your VP of E say after I left the meeting about me giving him kudos for his hard work he's been doing?
He's grateful. He's very grateful.
He really is doing an awesome job.
Yeah, he had this position before VPE, before he became
Oh,
area director and division director. And then before that, he was president of the club. So 4 years ago, he was VPE and also did a magnificent job.
well, the
Magnificent.
one thing I think is important is to always tell people thank you, and that if they're doing a good job, tell them they're doing a good job. If you don't think they're doing a good job, give them suggestions to help them do it better. But you know what? The fact that he sends emails out so regularly about the upcoming meeting, or he sends emails to the speakers and the evaluators, is so refreshing to see, because
Mhm.
I've seen clubs don't do that anymore, and I miss that. I'm trying to bring that back. I want members, I want the VPE or the Toastmaster and the general evaluator and the evaluator to email the president,
To do
remind
more.
them of the upcoming meeting, ask them for their evaluation sheet, and ask them what they're working on so that they, as their evaluator, can do a good job. I know I'm trying to do that whenever I'm an evaluator, email the speaker, because I
Oh
know
yeah,
when
me
I
too.
first joined, that used to be like you had to do that, but no one's really doing that anymore. So I'm trying to like push it back in.
Well, it's just because the people who have come on, it's called corporate deviance. Corporate deviance is when someone comes into an organization brand new and they don't learn the correct way of doing things. And so that incorrect way keeps going and going and going. So if you have
Yeah,
someone,
and I think people are just really busy too. But I agree with you. It's because they're people are not teaching the whole thing. I
right,
agree with you. But I think with your help, things will get back on track.
Oh, it's never just me, it's us.
Yes,
We're always a
yes,
team.
yes, exactly. You're so true, Holly. So true.
Okay.
Anyway, again, thank you for coming on my
I
interview
appreciate it.
show, my podcast, and I will send it to you later.
Okay.
Okay,
Ta-ta
have a
for
good day.
now.
Bye.
Bye.
You can go if you want.
Oh, are we off camera?
Yeah. Well, it's still on. I'm waiting for Guy, but he should be on pretty soon.
Okay. Then I will see you tomorrow.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Peace. My next person I will be interviewing is Guy Dawson, who was area director, division director, and district director when District 33 was one of one district, and now District 33 split off into two districts. And now it's District 33 and District 115. He should be coming in a couple of minutes, and then he will be my next person I will be speaking to on leadership. And we will find out what he has learned from being a leader and what leadership has done for him in his personal career and his business career. Because Guy Dawson owns his own company, let's find out if being a Toastmaster has helped him in all facets of his life. Milo, has Toastmasters helped you any? How's being a leader helped you, Milo? Let me ask my dog how Toastmasters has helped him. How being a leader helped you, Milo, huh? Has being a leader in Toastmasters helped you? Huh? Milo? waiting for Guy Dawson. Guy Dawson is flying in from Las Vegas, Nevada to be on the Linda Mann Show. You know how those plane trips are. Or maybe he's riding in on horse. Alan, now your picture looks good. So, Alan, since you didn't see the questions, I guess I have to ask you off the cuff. So, since you're a member of Off the Cuff, this should come really easy for you. What were 3 things you learned as a leader in Toastmasters from being area governor, division direct to division director? You're muted.
The first thing I learned is both as an area governor and a division director is learn, delegate, and trust. The quote from Ronald Reagan, "Trust but verify," is so true that you got to trust people. And part of that trust, the importance of this trust is that hopefully in this trust process that you are training future leaders. So that's the number one thing. And second of all, there's a lot of people out there who are willing to help, and all you really need to do is give them a little encouragement, to say, you know what, I think you could do this. I think you have it in you to do this. And I mean, I don't know how in depth you want to do this. I mean, I think Barbara Boxer, who was a little hesitant at once to getting involved as my replacement for area governor, was a little hesitant, but with a little encouragement, that I think she proved to be a perfect replacement for me when I was area governor. And the same thing when I was looking for a replacement for my division director, Richard Young. He was a little hesitant, but I think letting people know that when they're taking on a leadership position, especially when they're taking over from you, that you are there for them, and there's a people behind you because they don't want to see you fail. I think that's great encouragement.
Okay.
And the final thing, because you asked me 3 things, is you cannot say thank you enough.
Amen.
I mean, just whether it's a little thank you card or, after you're having your area contest or your division contest, publicly acknowledge, all the people who really made it happen. I mean, I remember one time I was a chief judge and we couldn't send people chocolates. This was when right after this is the first contest after COVID lockdown, and we couldn't have a contest in place. We had it online, but there's still a lot of people you want to help. And typically, there's a little chocolate inside the judging packet. Well, instead of sending a physical piece of chocolate, we just send them a virtual chocolate, and you know what? They like that.
I think that was funny.
Yeah, and
Did your wife create that?
Yeah, and that's another thing is there's a lot of talented people out there, and don't be afraid to ask people with certain talents. My wife, I hope this is okay to put this in the interview. She has great talent for websites, newsletters, and message. I remember when I was a division director, she was very instrumental. My wife, I don't know who that is, was very instrumental in keeping the division website up to date, and also sort of prodded me, which is a good thing to do. Sometimes a leader sometimes needs a little prodding by other people. And so maybe that's number 4 is, putting out a every couple months message to everybody, and that's maybe not less than number 4. I don't know if I'm allowed to do 4, but that's message number 4 is
Or
sometimes.
something, wasn't there something you did to an area director and your division director to say you'll handle it yourself?
Yeah, well, I guess if you want number 5, let me finish with number 4. Because I think this is important, that even if you're in a leadership position, don't be afraid to take a little prodding, because one of my area directors was good at prodding me, Lydia Macklett Cruz Macklett. She was very good about prodding me about certain things that needed to be done, little things that I might forget. And my wife was very good about prodding me about certain public relations type things that. And I guess number 5, okay, if we have time for number 5, is do not micromanage. Try, if you have to, hopefully you're going to be in a position, hopefully, I'm going to back up. Hopefully you're going to be in the position that the people you are reporting to are going to let you deal with a situation, trust that you will deal with a situation needs to be, give you the, not micromanage, but give you the trust to deal with certain situations, to come up with the right solution, and no micromanages. Micromanaging does not motivate other people. I don't know any organization where in this day and age where micromanaged. It used to be in the 60s a proper way of managing people, and they call it Theory X management, where you manage people by just like keep them under your toe and have to tell them every little thing. But we're past that. We're past Theory Y management, which is a more where we're now in a type of management to give people in leadership, where we're in a situation where, in a world where the correct way to create new leaders is to give them the leeway to hopefully make the right decision. And if you're in a situation where you have that leeway, which I was when I was division director, I had a great district director to report to, because she would always say, Alan, I know you will make the right decision, which then put the onus on me to, okay, well, what is the right decision? Is the right decision, in the case I once had to discipline an area director, is the right decision to beat that person over the head, or is the right decision to, do it in a way, okay, this is what you did wrong, and turn it into a learning experience.
And did they learn?
And I think they learned.
Very good. What did being an area director and division director teach you for your real life experiences in your company and in your personal life with your wife?
Okay, well, again, I think the big thing is delegation. This is a problem I've always sort of faced at work, is the delegation aspect, because you come from school, well, if it needs to get done, this do it yourself type of situation, and sometimes you need to delegate, and it's a delegation type of situation, because you're going to go crazy if you try to do everything. And I have seen this when I was just before I got into Toastmaster leadership. I saw, I don't know how many area directors just burned themselves out because they felt they had to do everything. They had to literally do everything for a contest. Okay, well, I'm not going to kill myself. There's no job, even work, is worth killing yourself for. So
Not your wife.
Well,
what has being a leader taught you about in your personal life?
I haven't given much thought of my personal life, other than, okay, this is table topics here. Well, I'm going to go back to there's a lot of talent out there in my personal life. I know I've discovered how talented my wife really is.
Has it taught you how to communicate though?
Yeah, but I mean, that is something I think I was, yeah, And that goes to the delegation portion. You still need to communicate, but not, okay, you can't constantly be emailing, because in the work environment, there are people who just constantly email about this, this, and then, but you got to, at a certain point, there's a fine line between talking or emailing or whatever, and just trusting whether it be a coworker or your wife is gonna do something.
Okay,
You know,
Alan, I know you don't like talking about being a leader, but has being a leader in Toastmasters helped you to be a better leader in life today?
I think so. Again, it goes to the delegation standpoint, and I, try to avoid the micromanagement, the management type of things. The micromanagement trap is an easy trap to fall into, because we want things done a particular way, and sometimes maybe when we delegate, whoever you delegate to is going to find a better way. There are better mousetraps out there.
When you were a division director, I know your area was, and when you were area director, you were President's Distinguished as well. What did it take for you to become President's Distinguished, both as an area and a division director?
Well, it's an interesting comment, because I remember my district director, Deborah, God, I forgot her last name. My district director, who I reported to, she made a comment that at the training they give to district officers, they give a baseball, and I don't know if they do it now. And the whole purpose is they take this baseball and everybody hands it to somebody else. And the whole point of the exercise, and they remember her telling us about this, was the whole point is you need to keep your eye on the ball. It's just like you're playing baseball, you can't look away. So yeah, you have to keep your eye on the ball, of what's going on. And I think that's another key component that I learned.
That's actually great to tell area directors and division directors today. So I hope that they watch this.
There's so many things, whether you're going in motion at the same time, especially toward the end of the year. And you got to, and most importantly is what Franklin Covey said, one of his habits of successful leaders is that keep the end in mind. And this actually has to do when you're putting up, and it's the same thing about when you're putting up Christmas lights. Okay. I mean, you think about what the end is, you need to be able to plug that last cord, that female plug or male plug, into a female, outlet. Okay. I mean, and if you don't keep the end in mind, you're going to end up with a weird connection that you can't make. So yeah. So you're going to end up with two males or two females. And from an electrical standpoint, it just doesn't work.
I guess that's the same with being an area director. You could have two heads buttons.
So you have to, and you have to really keep the end in mind. The end goal is to be President's Distinguished. So what are all the components? Whether you're an area director or a division director or a district director, okay. The end is this: what are all the things that need to fall into place for that to happen? And you need to keep your eye on that, and maybe have people. And you can't do it all yourself. Again, you have to. And admittedly, when I was an area director, I had to do a little wheeling and dealing but negotiation, not wheeling and dealing, negotiation. So you need to. This is a tool, a Toastmaster tool, and I'm going to, negotiate. Okay, you're going to help me get this club chartered, but this is what I'm going to do for you too.
Okay, Alan, what are your comments? How do you think being a member in different clubs in different states, countries has helped you today?
Oh, I mean, just tremendous. I'm just going to say one example is my role as a general evaluator. At the end of the meeting, right now in my home club in Simi Valley, there's always where it's right there at the end. So we just say the standard thing. Oh, we started on time. Great speeches, great table topics, blah blah evaluator. But there's really no evaluation, really strong evaluation of the evaluators. And one of the clubs myself and my wife are a member of is a club in Perth, Australia, where they do a very robust the master evaluator gives a robust evaluation of the evaluators, including the table topic evaluations, which is something, again, I think that where possible, clubs should try to incorporate table topic evaluations, because to me, table topics is probably the most important type of speaking skill anyone can learn, impromptu speaking.
Yes. So
I've learned that in a couple clubs. In another club, Manama Toastmasters, I think we need to bring back a little of the formality of running the meeting. We sometimes here in the United States get a little loose with our formality of how we address, each other. And I like how they, respect. They introduce people as Toastmaster so-and-so or distinguished Toastmaster so-and-so. And I think that especially individuals who are distinguished Toastmasters, we need to give that recognition. But I like that formality that Manama Toastmasters brings to it.
Now I know you don't do Facebook, so how do you find out about all these clubs in different parts of the world?
Well, I'm very lucky. I know some individuals who are well-traveled in Zoom traveled. So again, if you don't have a certain skill, go to those people who have. And there's an individual. Can I mention his name?
Yes.
Okay. This whole Zoom traveling experience for myself and my wife really started when an gentleman by the name of David Drebsky popped in one time to Simi Valley. I think it was Simi Valley Toastmasters, not Simi West, but Simi Valley Toastmasters.
Was it TGIF first?
I don't know, one of the clubs. But it's like, wow, someone from New York is visiting us, and he talked about visiting clubs and really, not just in other parts of the United States, but throughout the world. And really, this is the power of technology, and it's going to be hard for Toastmasters International to put this back in the bottle. Once this COVID thing is whipped, which someday will, there'll be a vaccine or something, so we'll be past this pandemic someday. This of us just spending our times not just in our physical clubs that we meet, whether it be in a bank or a library or some other place like lodge, that's not going to go away. That's going to go away. This idea that a virtual traveling is here to stay, I think. And I see we have a new guest, so it looks like my time is up as being interviewed.
No, actually, Alan, I wanted to ask you about going to other clubs. If someone asks you to be an officer for one of these other clubs, would you take it on?
It depends on the role. If I could be effective in that role, I don't know about it. It would really have to depend specifically on what role and where the club is located, and when they hold their executive committee meetings, because I can't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to attend the executive committee meeting. But if it all depends.
Now, going to a regular meeting in person and going to an online meeting, what would you say the differences of learning capability are? Do you recommend Zooming to other people?
I personally think in the business world, the skill of presenting online is probably more important. I know some people may disagree with me on this, but I think getting up on a stage, if you're and presenting, unless you want to be doing TED Talks in front of groups of thousands of people worldwide, but if you're working for a company and you've got a meeting that you're going to be presenting to your boss who's right now in Erie, Pennsylvania, and you're somebody, you got a supplier who's in Oman, and you got another sales office in another part of the world, and you need to be able to communicate online, especially since a lot of companies are doing training online. So I think actually this COVID thing has forced us to learn a new and very important skill for those people who are in the business world presenting. Yes, speaking on a stage is important, especially if you're in a leadership position. And getting physically, I mean, there's a difference between physically speaking in front of people and speak online. There's this buffer if you're online, but the skill of being able to present online is, in my opinion.
Well, one cool thing that we just found out last night is they can only see you from the neck up. So some people who are pregnant, you would never know, right?
Well, you know what? I joke about this, but we had a all hands meeting in our corporate offices for our business group, which reports to a higher part of the organization, is located in Sunderland, Scotland, and they're on lockdown. Right, Sunderland, Scotland is on lockdown right now, and they were presenting. The lady who was presenting was like. For us, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, but for them, it was a lot. It was a lot earlier, or it was like, I think they said it was like a completely different time zone. She commented, the reason you don't want to see me right now she joked before we went live, because I caught a little bit of the pre-live presentation. She joked that you don't want to see me right now because right now I'm going to be presenting in my PJs. But that didn't go public to the whole company. Okay. It looks like I thank you for the opportunity to speak, but it looks like your next person being interviewed.
How far along is Melissa?
What?
Do you remember how far along is Melissa?
She's in her 3rd trimester.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, see, Guy Dawson, Melissa, what's her last name? Melissa is pregnant, and we can't even tell online. She gave a speech last night. She stood up and showed her belly.
But no, I don't think the whole world needs to know that.
Okay,
that was a great perspective that Alan Billy was talking about. We don't know a lot of things that are going on, right? In these rooms when we're on these Zoom calls.
But it was a very good, humorous speech. She did a good job.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought it up. It was a good speech, and she's right. You don't know what's going on in that person's room.
But borders and time zones don't make a difference anymore for presenting. It's just if you're willing to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, your time, wherever that time zone may be, and give your if you have to give your presentation.
You just need to make sure you're presentable.
Yeah, what people don't see, there's so much, and that's fine. As
long as you're presentable from the shoulders up, that's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I think this is a great tool and very relevant to today's business world. I don't know how the next interviewee feels about my comment, but maybe you could ask him whether he agrees or disagrees with me.
Anyway, thank you, Alan, for helping me with my interviewing and being a part of the Linda Man Show.
Okay.
Way to go, Alan. Great.
And
to
our
see
next do I
Our
get a cup of coffee? Do I
our
get a
next
coffee mug?
interviewee will be-
Usually the guests on an interview show get a coffee mug.
Yes, okay, here's your coffee mug. I'll give you a kiss later.
Okay,
you.
okay, okay. I'm
You're
gonna go.
a special guest.
Okay, I'm gonna exit the stage.
Exit stage
Great
left.
to see you, Alan.
Exit stage left like the
Okay,
cartoon
okay.
does.
Nice meeting you, Guy. Nice seeing you, Guy.
Take care, Alan.
Thank you, Guy, for coming. Anyway, what?
I appreciate your invite to your podcast, The Linda Mann Show.
I just thought of that after I interviewed Holly. I'm like, oh, the Linda Man Show. That sounds good. Guy Dawson, don't you call your show the Guy Dawson Show?
Yes, we do have I have a podcast. It's called The Guy Dawson Show. Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a
actually, I
really,
learned-
really simple way to create your show. Just call it your name, right?
I think I learned a lot from Alan's interview. He actually, the way he answered the questions. So now I'm actually looking forward to even more how you answer the questions. So can we start off? This is Guy Dawson, and he will be answering my questions on leadership and what it has done for him in his personal life and in his career. So Guy Dawson, I emailed you 3 questions. Would you like to start off with answering what were 3 things you learned as a leader in Toastmasters, starting with area governor to division governor, and then district director or district governor, whatever you were at the time?
Right. So 3 specific things. I mean, I learned hundreds of things, but there are, 3 specific things that I learned a lot about through my leadership experience in Toastmasters. As you mentioned, being an area governor, I think that the number one thing, even me becoming an area governor, was kind of an unexpected thing. So I showed up at a Toastmasters Leadership Institute event one day, and there was a division director there, and she reached out to me. I'd been in Toastmasters probably about 4 or 5 years at that point. And she reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in serving. And so I would say, I really didn't know all that much about what it was to be an area director. I knew people had done it. I knew, I've been a member of a club, Windjammers, which is very service oriented. So we had a lot of people who had been area governors, division governors. We even had someone in there who was my mentor, actually, Phyllis Tribby, who had been a district governor. So I had been exposed to it, but I just didn't know a lot about it. So I would say the first thing that I learned was the importance of just raising your hand and saying yes, right? We talk a lot about that in Toastmasters, is that a lot of times your growth comes from your willingness to do something that you haven't done. And I would say all through these different roles that I filled in Toastmasters, from area governor to division governor, I was public relations manager for the district. Then I was club growth director, program quality director, and ultimately, the role of district director. But they were all stepping stones, and you have to raise your hand every time. Every time you step into one of these roles, you're raising your hand and you're saying, yes, I want to learn more. I want to grow more. I want to improve my life. As a result, at least that's the way that I looked at it. So yeah, definitely a commitment to being willing to take yourself on and grow by just raising your hand and saying, I will do it. I think the second thing that I learned that was really significant through the district leadership roles in particular is I learned a lot about working with volunteers and about how important it is when you're coordinating volunteers to do things, because in Toastmasters, everything we're doing is volunteer based. No one's being paid for the things that they're doing. When you're working with volunteers, as compared to when you're working with actual people who are employees who work for you or that you're managing, is that it's a different mindset. Even though the objective is the same, you're still working towards achieving goals within the organization of Toastmasters in the clubs and in the areas and the divisions and ultimately in the district. So you have similar goals to what you would have in your work environment. You've got projects to complete, things to get done. But the difference is that when someone's a volunteer, it's a secondary thing. They have all kinds of other things going on in their lives, their families, their work, all different types of things that they're doing. When you're leading volunteers, I think it's important that you understand that, which means that you have to be a lot more flexible with your leadership style, I would say, when you're working with lots of volunteers, because this is an extra thing. Even though it's an important thing, being a member of Toastmasters will help them to grow and helps the community. And I think that as Toastmasters, we're very committed to that. And at the same time, as a leader in a volunteer organization, the fact that they have deadlines on their jobs that they need to fulfill. If they've got children or they've got husbands and wives, that there are a lot of other commitments that people have that supersede the commitment that they have to whatever it is you'd like them to help you with in Toastmasters. And learning how to adapt your leadership style to that fact and still getting things done at the same time. I think that was definitely a valuable thing that I learned.
Is that the third? Did you also say thank you to everybody? And like if someone did a really good job, just really give them praise as a leader?
Well, yes. I mean, I have a phrase that I use a lot, and I'll use this as my third thing, actually. That's a great segue that you just kind of led me into. So I have a word that I like to use a lot, and it's called edification. So basically the definition of edification is when you're building people up, encouraging them, making them feel better about themselves. Being in an organization like Toastmasters, which is very focused on that. I mean, we're really big on the edification part, right? All the clapping, the awards, the praise that we give one another, all of that is meant to help people improve their self-esteem and confidence and to help them to grow and really gain a greater appreciation for the talents that they have. As I was going through these leadership positions, as you were mentioning about please, thank you, words like that are very important when you're dealing with people who are wanting to, number one, they're volunteers. Number two, they're in a personal development environment. And they're sometimes going through challenges. You know, when a person is an area director and they've never done anything like that before, and you have quite a bit of responsibility that is thrust on you, and you may not really have been prepared for the amount of responsibilities that are given to you as an area director. Hearing about it is one thing from someone else who did it, but actually being an area director, having to go out and visit those clubs, complete those reports, work with the leadership. You're also accountable to your division director. You're accountable to the district director. There's a lot of times more to that than people realize when they get into taking on that type of a role. Where edification fits in here is I made it a point in all the positions that I was in to be overly generous in my edification of people, really building them up, praising them for the things that they did. It was something that I did consciously. And it actually started when I think it was an area governor. And I started to really utilize those, you know, the little white ballot slips that we have in the Toastmaster clubs that allow you to send notes to your fellow members. What I did around the time that I became an area governor is I really started to use those notes a lot. At the club level, I would send notes to everyone, the speaker, the table topics master, the evaluators, you know, the general evaluator, you can literally edify everyone in that club if you choose to do that. And I started to develop an edification habit from that experience. And I feel like it was very helpful to me as I was going along on this leadership journey because in all of these positions, it's very important to have the cooperation of people to get things done. We all benefit from cooperating with one another. Because I was focused on edifying people and really praising them for the things that they did well. Of course, you have to sometimes offer people suggestions. We have the sandwich technique in Toastmasters. So I'm not saying everything I did was all edification, but I would say that I tried to focus my communication with the people who I was serving with in the area of edifying them, building them, praising them for the things that they did well. And I feel like that helped me to have some pretty cooperative people working with me as I kept going along on my leadership journey.
I have a question to you on some of your clubs you belong to. And I know that District 33 broke off into another district, District 115. This is the first year for District 115. But in some of your clubs in Vegas, I know, having traveled outside of California to other clubs in other parts of the world, I have seen clubs use Google Docs as a way of sending notes to the speaker or voting, such as polling. You can either poll through Zoom or you can take votes through Google. But I've also seen some clubs take those little notes that we used to give in person during a club, and now they're doing it online through Google Docs. Do any of your clubs do that?
We're basically just using the chat box for that.
What do you think about using Google Docs? Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I've used Google Docs. I've never actually used it for anything like that, but I feel that communication, however you best can communicate with one another, all these things are tools that help us, especially because we're in a different environment now. What I was describing to you was when we were physically meeting and you're able to hand the slips to one another. What I started doing was just using the chat box, and it actually allows you to do even more edification because you can send to more people. There's no limits on who you could possibly send a note to in the chat box, everyone who's attending the meeting. But electronic things, anything that helps you to communicate better. We're in a communications organization. And for me, I have a saying, you can never over communicate. Most of the breakdowns that I see in human relations are not a result of over communication. They're a result of under communication. And so, yes, I agree with whatever devices that we could use. If it's a physical thing, of course, now we can't really do that because we're doing everything online for the most part. Although I know some meetings, I'm in several clubs that are physically meeting, along with having the online platform. But whatever it is, that if it's Google Docs or any of the other platforms that help you to be able to communicate better with one another, I strongly encourage other Toastmasters to utilize them because, yeah, there's no such thing as too much communication in my
Have you
opinion.
visited any clubs outside Vegas or outside the United States yet?
No, I know you've been making these recommendations to me to visit some of these wonderful clubs that exist outside of the United States. And I have not had an opportunity to do that yet. However, we have had quite a few members from other countries who have come to the clubs that I've been visiting. I mean, that I'm actually in, and that's a great experience too.
Yes, it
Because
is.
they come and they bring their own way of doing things, which is different, and it's wonderful. I think it's great. I think that the international aspect, the pandemic has definitely created a new environment in Toastmasters that I feel is great. And that's exposing one another through these Zoom video conferences to clubs that we ordinarily would never get to visit unless you went to that country and had the chance to visit.
I think also doing a joint meeting with another club outside your area, outside your state is really exciting and fun. Our TGIF club Friday night had another joint meeting with a club in Seoul, Korea. Our Oju club had a joint meeting with a club in India. And I personally get so energized from that. And with TGIF, it's such a small club that feeling energized after a meeting is great because then you want more. So what are your feelings about maybe recommending to some of your clubs of having a joint meeting with another club?
Well, I mean, I've been a part of joint meetings for many, many years, and I've always found them to be definitely something that is, it's unique. And I feel that clubs need unique experiences, not necessarily that that's always the experience. I mean, I feel that there's something good in the consistency of running traditional meetings. But I also think that throwing additional things into the way that you run your clubs, these special meetings, joint meetings, partnering with clubs that aren't even in your own country, they keep things fresh and exciting. So absolutely, I do believe that you have your fundamental format and the way that you run your meeting, but adding special meetings, be they joint meetings, backwards meetings. I've been a part of a lot of different table topics meetings. Doing that, adding that to what you regularly do is something that I think enhances the club greatly.
One thing Alan and I learned from clubs out of the United States is table topic evaluator, which a lot of clubs here in the United States do not do. And like Alan just said in his interview, I too believe that table topics is an important skill to learn because it's impromptu speaking. So we both love the table topic evaluator because it evaluates how you did during your table topic answering. So we love the fact that some clubs do table topic evaluators. And that's one thing by bringing in a club and having a joint meeting with another club can do because they might have a role that you don't have that could introduce that to your club. And that's what I mean. That's the excitement. Plus the different people, the way people act. It's just really exciting. Guy, what did being a leader in Toastmasters teach you for real life and your company?
Many things. I think that one of the main things that I learned through my leadership journey and continue to learn, my journey in Toastmasters, is that it's people. You know, when it all comes down to it, if you're running a Toastmaster club, or if you're running a company, or if you're running your household, or if you're a part of some other organization, everything comes down to relationships with people. And one of the things that being in district leadership does, especially when you continue to go up these levels, the higher the level that you go up in your leadership journey, the more people that you deal with, which means different personalities, different backgrounds, different cultures, different temperaments. All these people have different goals of why they are members of Toastmasters. I mean, I can't tell you how many area governors I've worked with, right? When I think of all the years between being a division governor and then 3 years in the trio, plus being public relations officers, I mean, District 33 was a huge district, which meant we had 4 or 5 area governors or directors in all those divisions. So you're talking about every year you're dealing with hundreds of different people. And that experience is very helpful when you're running a company, because a company is the same way. You're dealing with your employees, people who work with you. In my company, we also have interns, constantly are having different interns who are coming into the fold, different things to teach them. Plus, we're dealing with the clients themselves. And it's the same thing with your clients. The clients have their own cultures, backgrounds, interests. And so, because everything in business is really about people when it all comes down to it, I mean, I feel like that was one of the main things that I became even stronger at, is being able to adapt to different people who have thoughts that are different than mine, attitudes that are different than mine, and yet how do we still achieve the goal of helping you? Because that's what being in Toastmasters is all about. It's a servant leadership position when you're in leadership, or even when just being a member of Toastmasters, you're a servant leader. And the idea is that you're serving these other people to help them to get a great experience by being a member of Toastmasters. And at the same time, while you're doing that, you're also learning and growing. Working with people towards that specific goal it requires you to, if you choose to, become better with your people skills. And I just don't think that you could ever, like I said, you can never be too over communicative. I don't think you could ever have too good of people skills. You can always improve your people skills. And I feel like my leadership journey, at least on that level, and it continues, I mean, it's not over, but that definitely was something that greatly benefited my life in Toastmasters, my personal life, and my life in business, was becoming better even with people.
How has it helped you with your personal life, with your kids, and maybe your dating life?
All right. I talk about this all the time. I came to Toastmasters back in 2007, and I had a very specific goal of wanting to become a public speaker. And I wanted to become a professional speaker. And since then, I've changed that goal. I ended up getting much more focused on the leadership aspect.
So, yeah.
When I joined Toastmasters, I had that goal. And what I discovered from being a member was that the communication skills that you develop in Toastmasters are more useful really in your everyday life.
That's true.
I don't present every day. I don't do a speech every day, but the things that they teach you, I had mentioned, I've talked about it quite a bit in meetings, and I've done several speeches about the sandwich technique and how I started utilizing the sandwich technique with my 7-year-old son when I joined Toastmasters, where he was 8. And I learned a lot from that. So my usual approach with my son was, you know how it is, you've got kids or anyone, and it could be really easy for you to point at what they're doing wrong first, rather than using the sandwich technique and edifying them first.
Yeah.
And then offering them some suggestions for feedback. And then wrapping the sandwich up with more edification. I started doing that with my son to help him get him to clean his room. I'd go up there and I would talk about, what a great, you look just like Superman with that cape on, right? Because my kid he loved action heroes. He was really into that. So I would go up there and I would say, man, you look so great with that cape on. You look like you could just go out there and fly right now. And then I would say, so, hey, what can we do about getting some of these toys off the floor? You think we could put some of them in the toy box? So I've already created an environment, right? With edification, I've already gotten him in a better mood, rather than just going up there and saying, hey, there's toys all over. That was how I would have reacted prior to joining Toastmasters. I didn't understand that there was a way to set people up, to put them in a frame of mind that helps them to be more receptive to what it is the feedback that you have for them. And that was just a sandwich technique. And by the way, I use that with a lot of people, not just my son, but that was an excellent starting point, was working on that with him. And then the other big thing was listening. And what I learned from joining Toastmasters was that your greatest skill in communication is not what a great speaker you are. It's what a great listener you are. Being in the Toastmaster meetings and not talking for most of the meeting. Most of the time you're listening to other people sharing their presentations. And what I learned from that was that my strongest communication skill became listening, learning how to listen better. And when you listen to people, they greatly appreciate the fact that you do that.
So true. I believe, I totally agree that it's not a matter whether you can communicate, because if you're not a good listener, then you're definitely not a good communicator. Being a communicator starts with your ears. So I really like clubs that have a functionary in their role, like Simi Valley Toastmasters does with Radar Person. Every club calls it something different, where that person is listening throughout the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, they quiz everybody to see if everybody was listening. And it could be anything at all, what someone said, what someone did, because you need to constantly pay attention to what's around you. And that's a good thing. Now, Guy Dawson, do you feel that you are a better leader now for everything that you've done?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, filling roles like that and having that level of commitment that you have. I was a district leadership for 7 consecutive years. So imagine that, right? For almost a decade, I committed my life to becoming a better leader and to serving others. It's just about impossible when you make that type of a commitment, and you've served district leadership roles before and you've been around this a long time. So I know you understand the level of commitment that a person has to have, especially when you get in those 3 chairs, the last 3 in the trio. I mean, the hours that you commit to becoming a better leader and working with people and serving people, you can't help but become a better leader from that experience. And you have to allow it to happen too. You learn, I learned a lot about myself, Linda, through all these different roles and working with all these different people and the experiences, and you laugh and you cry. I mean, you go through a lot of different things when you serve year after year after year like that, because it's just life is going on, right? So you're also living your life. You're running your business. For me, being in my business, raising my son, personal life, all these other things are going on, but you've got this ongoing thing where you are in this leadership position and you are heavily accountable to people for years and years and years like that. And when you're that accountable to people, it really steps up your game as a leader, because even though you're a volunteer, you signed up for that job. And if you're someone who takes your responsibility seriously, it doesn't matter whether you volunteered for it or not. You've signed up for it. You have to get that. It needs to get done, right? Whatever it is that needs to be done, you learn, I'm responsible for this. If I don't do it, no one will do it, especially when you become district director, because you have a massive amount of responsibilities that go along with being a district director. And there's no one else. I mean, there's paperwork that you fill out, signatures that you put on things that no one else can put on in the entire district. You're in a district with 5,000 people, and you're the one person who signs for very important things, large sums of money. I mean, you're really engaged in a task that you just can't help but grow as a person and as a leader, just based on the amount of responsibility that you have through these leadership positions that you've taken on.
Have you ever recommended to your son to join Toastmasters?
I have talked to him about that. I mean, he's been around this. He was coming to the meetings when he was a little kid. So he's very aware of Toastmasters.
Okay.
Now he's 21 years old. And I don't know if he's at the stage in life where he feels that this would be of benefit to him, but he knows where to come, right, when the time is right. And if this is something that he decides that he's actually a really good speaker, though. They learn, Linda. They're around you, they're in the environment all the time, and they kind of learn by osmosis, your kids. I've had a lot of my friends in Toastmasters who talk about how their kids are better communicators, and they think it's because of not necessarily that they were in Toastmasters, but just being around all of us, all of our friends. They learn a lot just from the exposure that they get being our children.
It sounds like the evaluation process has really helped you too, as a parent and as a leader, hearing how you said how you would evaluate your kids when they were younger to clean their room. So that's cool, because that's an important role as well, evaluating in general, because even as an owner of your company, you have to evaluate people such as me.
Yes, and your evaluations, the great thing about the sandwich technique, which I use on you all the time, and I'm sure you're aware that I'm using
Yes.
it, right? But it doesn't matter if it's an employee or anyone, that technique will work because if you, it's all about the way that you communicate with people.
Yes.
And so sometimes I have to say things to people. They may not want to hear what it is that I have to say, but I have to say it, right? I can't just ignore an issue, right? Something that comes up that doesn't, it's not a personal attack. That's another great thing I think that you learn being a member of Toastmasters or being in these leadership positions is, you learn to speak to people in a tactful way, hopefully, because you won't get things done if you don't. If you're not tactful, if you're not making an effort. I mean, we're all at different levels in our skills in communication. And again, we all come from backgrounds that have been different. But I would say that in general, being tactful with people, at least make an effort to be tactful with people rather than just blurting out the first thing that comes to your mind, which could be a negative thing. But and that's why the sandwich technique helps you to become more tactful, because when you get them in that mode, right, you're already thinking in a more positive frame of mind when you do that first part of the sandwich. And then when you have to add the other things, they still may not want to hear it, but the fact that they got that, with employees and people all the time, I'm working on this, right? I have to tell you what we need to correct, but we've created an environment of where there's tact, where that person, it's about, Linda, that person still feeling that they're useful and they're needed and they're important. And that's how we get the job done. I mean, that's the culture that we've developed in our company, Classic Communications, is that type of a culture, is that it's a culture of empowerment for everyone. And Toastmasters, the things I've learned and continue to learn being in Toastmasters has just been very helpful in that way.
Thank you, Guy. In closing, would you like to give a shout out to any of your clubs and maybe tell newcomers to come to any of your clubs to learn more?
I would love to do that, Linda. I am a member of 4 clubs right now. And the first club that I'll give a shout out to is my first ever club that I joined, Windjammers. It is the oldest club in Las Vegas. I think we are 63 years old. And we meet every Wednesday from 7:30 to 8:45, live online. It's just a very well-run club, a lot of extremely experienced Toastmasters who know how to do things the right way. I'm really grateful that I joined that as my first club. Then I'd like to give a shout out to Holistic Toastmasters. And that is a club that we started about 8 years ago, and it has kind of a holistic theme. We do meditations and a lot of really interesting themes, along with it running like a traditional Toastmaster club. We meet from 11:30 until 12:30 every Monday for Holistic Toastmasters. Then I'm the member of Cause Masters, and that's a club that we started about 1.5 years ago, and it is tied into an organization that we're developing called the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. Basically, it's an opportunity for people in the nonprofit world and then the business world to come together to improve their communication skills. So we have a lot of themes that are around nonprofits, causes, how you can bring nonprofits and causes together to improve the community. And we meet on the first and third Friday of every month, also online, although we've got Holistic as hybrid as well as Cause Master. So we're meeting in person as well as online. And then the 4th club that I'm a member of is called Next Generation Talkers Toastmasters. And we just organized this club a couple of months ago. And so we're still just developing. It's a newer club, and it doesn't as much have a theme other than it's all about the next generation of talkers and growing and in your communication skills. And we have a lot of business owners who are members of that club. So yes, I'm very engaged in Toastmasters. It's something that I recommend to people all the time. I mean, I just don't think that a person could go wrong by becoming a member of our organization. Whatever your goals are, people have very different goals for why they join Toastmasters. Some people do it for the professional growth. Some people do it for personal growth. Some people join because they just want to be a social environment, meet new friends, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can find in Toastmasters. So great friends like Linda. Linda and I have known each other for a lot of years, and now she works with our company. I mean, it's just you meet just some outstanding people, just some of the best people you'll ever meet. And I'm sure Linda agrees with me through membership in Toastmasters.
Yes, actually, Alan and I think, are members of 8 clubs. One in Bahrain, one in New York, one in Australia. We belong to an advanced club in California, OSU Toastmasters, TGIF Toastmasters, Simi West, Simi Valley, and what am I forgetting?
You guys need a 12-step program.
Yeah, we need a 12-step program to get away
for
from
Toastmaster addiction.
Yeah, really. But you learn something different from all these different clubs. Like
Yes, you do.
the club in Bahrain does everything the way I first learned in Toastmasters. Some of the things that Bahrain does, a lot of the clubs over here do not do anymore. The way the general evaluator evaluates the whole meeting, you actually have to see it being done. They don't just do the normal, we started on time, we did this, we did this, we did. They actually evaluate the whole meeting verbatim to the pin. It's like they'll tell you exactly how it ran, how well it was. They'll tell you if the Toastmaster not just did a good job, but they'll say how they did the job. You really need to visit a club to see. I have visited a club in Portugal, Lisbon, and by visiting a club, that got me to want to bring the applause factor here to California. And then I went to a club in Nebraska. No, wait, where was it? Not Nebraska. Anyway, I went to another club, Alabama, and he also does the applause. And I love that because I think that's, as you stated in our interview, that's one of the things that we used to do after a person spoke is applause, you know, and I think speakers really like that. I remember the first time I played the applause in my home club, Simi Valley, the person who spoke, she gave me such a warm look on her face. She was surprised, but she was happy at the same time because she got this applause which she wasn't expecting. And that's a good feeling. So I actually would like to recommend to you again, check out other clubs in other parts of the world. I know you just went somewhere. I don't know if you were, I forgot what country you went to. I don't know if you were able to check out any clubs there, but didn't you go to Bahrain or someplace like that?
Well, I was near there. Yes, I was in Dubai.
Oh, Dubai. Did you check out any clubs?
No, I was working and busy all the time and didn't have a chance to go. But
well, if you ever get a chance, there's even an advanced club I told you about in London. That's pretty amazing too. And they have one thing, like a gong. If you go over time, they will gong you. I forget what they call it, but it's actually funny the way they do it. And we actually thought about maybe doing it at our advanced club because that's kind of cool too because it teaches you to speak within time. So the things that all these different clubs, clubs may all do the same thing, but at the same time, they're all different because different people are running them. It's really an experience to see for yourself on how clubs run. And what I tell people, if you're getting a little burnt out, go visit another club in another part of the world. You will not be burnt out anymore because they'll energize you so much that you'll want to come back and bring it back to your club. And I think that's amazing. Anyway, thank you, Guy, for allowing me to interview you, for coming on my show.
Yeah, it's great to be one of the first guests ever on the Linda Mann Show.